are here.
We's here. We made it, girl. I'm here.
We done did it. Okay.
We did it. Yes, I got to listen to a little Mother's Love
Oh,
today.
we was preaching today. We was letting them
Yes,
know about the culture. For the culture.
y'all was definitely on the for the culture today.
For the culture. I had to rep for the Juneteenth.
Yes. So how was the event? I hate that I couldn't come, but how was the event?
It was good. We got to meet old faithful Dre.
I know. You know,
Person
he
for the
tagged
first
me like,
time.
okay, I done got to meet Natalie. It's your turn.
Right. I laughed when he said that. I was like, yes, come on, meet the squad in person. It's so weird because like the way we talk and know each other from being online, it's like we've seen each other, met each other, knew each other for forever. But like that's just the COVID effect. We've never met in person. And it's like, dang, we haven't, have we?
But that needs to change, like ASAP.
It does.
It really needs to change. If my vision ever can come into fruition like I wanted to, I foresee me like actually having a studio. I would love us to be in the
hold on,
same.
what is this I'm hearing? The ifs and the you said when? Did you say when, sis?
When
Yeah.
my vision comes into fruition. I foresee a studio, like an actual like studio where I'm not sitting in my living room, and we can actually be having our show in person with each, like sitting in the same.
I'm actually looking to soon get some production space for Melanated in America, so we might be making that a thing real soon.
Ooh, I like that.
Lights, camera, action. Got you saying, Miss Jackson.
Yes, that is what my ultimate goal is and what I really, really want to do. So, you know, there's a lot of things.
The way.
It's on the way. Speak it, say it for me, sis. Because sometimes I need to hear it. I be trying to tell you. Sometimes I need to hear
it's already done.
It's done. It's in the cards.
It's already done.
I receive it. I am not gonna lie, but I am like ready to have this conversation. This conversation is something I'm really passionate about. And then I was back and forth on like, do I have guests? Do I not have guests? Just based on like the things I really want to say out there. And after we've had some hiccups before with guests, I do not want anyone to come on and be able to like bare their souls and speak from a vulnerable place, and we get bombarded with hate like we did that one show. So I was concerned.
I know that hit you heavy, sis, but that's just the reality of how some people's energy is, and we can't let that shake us.
We can't, but I also feel an obligation to protect. So like when you coming out here, this is supposed to be a safe space for anyone that, you know, comes and speak with us. So to know that I
definitely got the authority to lay that foot down, because control.
Y'all did. I absolutely did. But I also felt some sort of guilt because I was just like, that whole night, Robert was just like, you have no control. It's okay. But I'm like, this is a safe space. And I never want nobody to come on here and not feel that safe space. So I thought this would be a good conversation for us to lead into together, the two of us. And then I would like to break what we talk about tonight off into like other little shows, because there are some heavy hitter topics that I really want to talk about, because something I hear so often is that we really, really, really are struggling as Black women with a lot of things, and it's building so much resentment for Black men, and it's building so much anger period within us. And so in order for us to really ultimately get to a place where we're on the same page with one another, we have to be willing to listen to each other, and we're not doing that. So I really want to just have this conversation, like we really put it all out there in the open. People can take away with it what they must or will, but I want to not be afraid to speak on some things on this show, and I don't want to put anybody in the hot seat to speak on those things on this show, because I feel a lot comfortable about getting some of this shit out. So I'm like, I'm ready.
You ready? I'm also ready. I think for me, especially coming with this show coming after talking to the guys last week and then talking to the guys the week before that, I feel like this is going to be a really great show because y'all know I got my notes. I got my notes. And like just comparing the two, because one thing that we mentioned before is that like men have their struggle, and Gino said it so eloquently last week. Like men have their struggles and women have their struggles, but men have their assets and women have their assets. And when we combine those assets, baby, it's an unstoppable force because they're literally like puzzle pieces meant to fit together and complement each other. So once we get to the root and the understanding of women's trauma and pain and men's trauma and pain, and then we get to a place where we can speak on those traumas and pains and truly be heard and not having a conflict, and then understanding them and healing those places and those pains, then the world would be a better place.
We would be a better community because we really are better together than we are separate. But we're just, everybody's hurt. Like everybody is hurt. Black men are hurt, Black women are hurt. And when you're in that trauma state, when you're in that trauma space, it's so almost impossible for you to hear the other person. Like, and the funny thing is, like, one of the things that I've been very open that me and Robert have had struggles in our marriage, and we have overcome many things. But when we had our last rock bottom space, I think what really caught us a lot, when we settled down, we stopped doing my pain, my pain, my pain, my pain. And I started listening to him to understand. And he started listening to me to understand. We was doing the same things to each other, and we were mad about the same things. We were doing them in very different ways, but what was bothering him was bothering me, and vice versa. So when we got to settle down and listen to understand each other, it was like, damn, I feel that because that's how I be feeling. Wait, you feeling like how I make you feel like that? Like, hold on. So then that really helped us to start getting to a healing space, because up until that point, it was constantly my pain, my pain, my pain. You did. I feel like you never this, you always that. And it was just a never ending battle. But when we finally said, okay, we're not getting anywhere like this. We're in this hamster wheel of anger and resentment, and we're not going anywhere. So how are we going to even get whatever we decide to do with each other at this point? We need to get to some sort of place of understanding. So how are we going to do that? And what it was for us was listening to understand. I started to hear what was bothering him, and he started to hear what was bothering me. And then that was like a breath of fresh air. Like after that,
the win-lose thing we were talking about last week. It's like it's not a competition, like who has the most pain or who's the most hurt or who's doing the most or who's struggling the most. It's about hearing each other, fixing those hurt places or where the problem lies, so that you both can win.
So you both can win.
And truly being able to communicate it and not harbor feelings and not saying nothing and just holding it all in. It's not about, suppressing and then doing stuff subliminally and, all of that. It's about just vocalizing respectfully and not yelling and screaming and cussing people out, but respectfully vocalizing, this is how I feel. This is what I'm going through in this moment, and this is how it's impacting me. And then the person who's hearing that to literally hear it and take it in and say, you know what, I hear you and I understand that this is going on. How can I be of assistance, or what can I change, or what can I do so we can make this work?
I have a challenge for us on this call, on this show today. Okay. Because one of the things that I really had to learn in communication, right, is how I'm sending the message. And one of the things that was super important, just, bringing it back to me and Robert, because much of what we were going through as a couple, also with things that we're going through as Black women versus Black men, etc., and things that we hear often be spoken about in our communities with people feeling some sort of way about Black men and Black women, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that was super important in us getting to the healing space and us getting to that spot of better communication was no longer saying you did you this, and more so saying I feel like this, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this because you got to have that why, right? This is why I
Mm-hmm.
feel this way. And then trying to explain that without blaming, without fault, without finger pointing, that this is why I feel this way. One of the things, especially that I find myself having that conversation with other people outside of Robert, is when Black women say that they don't feel protected, and why they say they don't feel protected by Black men. And so, what I've had to learn to do, and it's worked with most of the people, that most of the men I've explained it to, without saying, because y'all don't ever do this and that, and y'all always wrong, and y'all do this, and saying it feels like we're not protected because blah 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 blah. So the
Because
challenge,
that triggers a lot of men.
it triggers a lot of men.
It triggers me into no end, and it was funny because, and not funny at the same time, because there was a post circulating basically saying that women don't feel protected or something like that, and I shared it, and I'm for the culture, pro Black, everything, okay? And so some men were like, how can you post something like this when you supposed to be for the culture and blah, 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 this is divisive and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, now, okay? First, y'all know me, but why?
Mm-hmm.
If this is an issue that a sister is having and we want to be conscious, woke, pro Black, or however you want to call it, we have to acknowledge her feelings, for one. And then two, we have to see why she feels this way and then fix those issues. We got to be solution based. I understand that it may hurt your feelings if you think you're a good guy, but then we also have to look at, okay, if we ask her, but why, what she's going through that made her feel this way, you got to be, as a good guy, able to check that brother who was not stepping up.
Hold your counterparts
So there's
accountable.
layers to it. So like being mad is not going to fix anything. How can we fix this problem so that she doesn't have to feel this way and other women doesn't have to feel this way anymore? But I think one question I want to ask you, Sante, is, sis, what is your pain? What is your pain? Like, what issues do you have as a Black woman in America? That's still like that hits heavy on your heart, that hinders you from living an amazing life at times, not forever, but at times.
Hold on, we only got 2 hours.
I think we only got 2 hours.
And let's
like, how much time you got?
It's so funny because honestly, Nat, that is something I'm thinking about consciously every day, all day. And I'm always trying to think about it, one, because I can't help it, because a lot of times I'm faced with those challenges and that pain consistently on a day-to-day basis. But also trying to figure out ways to prepare my daughter for her having to endure some of those pains, because a lot of my Black woman pain is universal for Black women, and it's very much universal based off the work I do, the environments that I'm in, etc. So trying to figure out how to prepare my daughter to exist in these spaces differently from me, because I've internalized it so much that if I'm not careful, it can make you very bitter and make you very angry.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't want to do. I never want to be that bitter, angry woman, that bitter, angry person. It takes a lot of energy out of me to be that type of person. I'm naturally a very loving spirit, nurturing spirit. I want to be positive all the time. If I can't be positive, I get quiet. So a lot of people be like, she ain't talking, she must be mad. No, I gotta be still and be quiet, because I'm not able to give off that positive energy, and I never want, we pass energy on. But one of my greatest Black pains, my two biggest ones, honestly, Black woman pain, is knowing and now being very self-aware of just how much pain my mother has had to go through as a Black woman. My grandmother, my great grandmother, and then really understanding how that affected my rearing as a girl, growing as a young woman growing up. And now understanding the why my mom may have done or said certain things, but also the sadness in knowing that those things affected me and that without them knowing, they passed a lot of that trauma down to me that wasn't mine. It was never mine. And it was an opportunity to shield me from it and for me to never really have to deal with it. But instead, it was passed down to me and all of the unlearning I had to do to love my Black husband properly and to love my Black son properly. So that was a lot of pain. And it's a lot of pain to see consistently Black women that I know and love around me really understanding from a mental health perspective, a healing person perspective, just how detrimental it is to them and how detrimental it can be to me if I don't stop it here and my daughter moving forward. So that's a big, great pain. And a second big pain that I have that I deal with every day is existing in a world that consistently makes you feel that you're never enough, that you're good enough to do this, and this, but we're never going to let you be good enough to do this, and that. And so always like trying to strive to shine, to let your Black girl magic out, be proud of it, right? But then having those consistent reminders that we ain't gonna never let you really because you're still Black. You're still Black. You're still a Black
That's
girl.
the being a woman and a Black woman part. And I think I've said this before on the show too. Like I feel like at one point I had to realize and just take it for what it is, that everything that I am, mainstream society hates.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a woman. I'm Black. Got some Native American in there. Like everything that I am, mainstream white man society has tried to eradicate pretty much, or belittle and got a boot on the neck of. And so it's like, it's that understanding, because you have to know the truth. You have to. But then from that creates a few different things, because it can go left or right. It can create a sadness, a feeling of less than, or it can create a confidence of unstoppable force. And so for me, it was that confidence. Because it's like, despite of, since the beginning of time, you've tried to have a boot on my neck, but I'm still here though. But I'm still thriving though. But you can't stop me though. And so for me, it was that. And recently, to your point about the ancestral, from the grandmother to the mother to you passing down, I was listening to my mother on the phone the other day talking about my grandmother, who's no longer with us, Ashe. But she was a feisty one. My grandmother was a pistol, and she had a pistol. You hear me talking to you?
Yes, I do. I understand, because that was my grandmother.
Listen, my grandmother was that Harriet Tubman type. Okay, this is the energy I come from. All right.
The funny story is my mother's mother look white. So I grew up hearing from other kids that I was adopted. I'm like, no, my grandmother's Black, but she had bright red hair with red freckles all over her face. Like, you would not have known that she was Black. But call her a white woman, oh, she was ready to fight. And then at one point, her left hand became paralyzed because she had a stroke. It didn't stop her. I've literally seen men be terrified of my grandmother because they shorted her a dime at the store. You don't pay with her dimes. You don't play with her money. I don't care if it's she want all her change. So I definitely get it. They came from a different time where it was.
Look, my grandma used to say, she'd be like, I kill a brick for mine. She like, she was not for none. In the afterlife, I feel like she protect us. Like, stuff try to go crazy, we be right next to some crazy stuff, but it don't hit us, and we be like, that must be grandma. It had to be grandma. She stepped in like, excuse the hell out of me. Not my baby. Listen, on the other side, I know she still got us, because that's her energy, But for me, listening to my mother talk about her, and I've heard the stories too, but in that moment, it really hit me where I was like, wow, that's a lot of trauma. because I've always loved that about my grandmother. I love her feistiness. I love how, not for none she was. It's actually a saying of, like, growing up, I used to always be like, I'm not for none. Like, don't play with me, don't test me, don't try me. Which is funny because most people have never seen me angry. But that's because you don't want to.
Look,
I come from a lineage of don't try me,
well,
so it's
different
always
angles,
funny.
man.
But
Different
her
angles.
energy has always, that feisty and strong energy has always been something I admired and I loved about my grandmother, still love about my grandmother. But hearing kind of the root of that, it was literally a safety thing for her because growing up she was like the oldest of a
Mhm,
plethora of siblings,
mhm,
and she didn't get a chance to go to school because after the other siblings came, she pretty much had to take care of them. Her parents were sharecroppers, so she had to work in the fields. When she did get a chance to go to school, it was those stories. We had to walk umpteen miles barefoot on the. It was that for my grandmother. That was her
mhm,
reality. And so hearing the story of my grandfather, my great grandfather, which was her father, he was abusive. I believe an alcoholic, but he was abusive to her mother. So growing up, she saw him abusing her mother. And at a certain age, I believe she was still really young when this happened, but at a certain age, she tried to kill her father.
mhm.
He went to abuse her mother, and that day she said no,
Today.
no more. And so that was a tussle, and but from that day forth, he never laid a hand on mama again. I tell you that, or her, and like literally would tell people like, "Oh, you don't want to mess with her; she crazy." But
No, she wasn't.
she
She
was
wasn't
in
crazy. She
all of
wasn't
her
gonna
right
have no
mind.
shit. That's all.
You feel me? She said, "Not my mother, not today. I'm done with this." And he never laid a hand on her mother again. I tell you that. But then hearing, so he came to Chicago. Then her, my mother, and my aunt ended up coming to Chicago. Great migration, and because they were from down south, and my mother's father wasn't the best either. And so they would
Mhm.
actually go hang out with my grandfather, her father, and not come home and do other things like that. And she would come like, okay, you stay over here, da da da. But her father would tell them like, oh, you don't want to mess with her, like you don't want to do that. But the thing was that I got from in that moment, again, I've heard these stories before, but in that moment, just listening to my mother talk about it on the phone, it was in laughter and it was in all of that and reminiscing of my grandmother, but it was also like the trauma that she had to go through from one man to a next, from the first man in her life, which was her father,
Mhm.
to the point where she had to literally almost kill this man because he was trying to abuse her mother. So seeing that, and then going to the man that she chose in her life,
Mhm.
the father of her child. He wasn't abusive, but he wasn't the best, and she had to come upside his head too. uh
Yeah.
it's like the trauma of that, and I never stopped to think of it in that way. And so to see my mother, who she never had to go up none of her men's head, but like they were let down as well. Like my father, though she was in love with him and they have a beautiful story and four amazing children, he ended up getting on drugs and cheating and doing other things that way. So he's never been a fixture in my life. I know him every once in a while. I see him and say hello, but that's the extent of our relationship. And then she got married again, and that wasn't the best relationship either. And so it was like, for me in my generational line, the trauma for the black women in my family has been black men.
It has been black. I'm so that's one of the things that I really want. I really feel so sad at times that black men don't understand. And I feel like if they did see it from that perspective, just the same as for a lot of black men, black women are probably the line of, trauma for them too. It's not just happening to us. Like there are some toxic and not unhealthy as women out there, black women
Yes,
out there
say
that
that.
are procreating, having sons, taking out their pain and trauma on those said sons, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
it happens. Like our ancestral trauma really shapes and affects us, even if we've never seen it. And how it affects us is because the people before us that have seen it, experienced it, heard it, know about it, begin to have a fear from it. So when I spoke earlier about like a lot of my ancestral trauma was never mine. It was never mine, but yet I remember growing up and feeling some sort of way about marriage. Growing up and feeling some sort of way about how to trust Black men beyond yourself. Growing up, and even though I had a lot of male love, Black male love, and protection around me, still feeling like, it's different because this is family. This is somebody that loves me. But if I'm going to deal with an everyday Black man out there, I'm going to have my guards up. And realizing that even in the period where I was dating people and I wasn't in a serious relationship, I probably wasn't that pleasant. It's like I kind of think maybe I wasn't that pleasant, even in sharing some of this, me and Robert's story. Some of my reactions to him wasn't necessarily pleasant. And it wasn't just about things that, I had experienced. It really was about growing up hearing all of this trauma, knowing, seeing a lot of this trauma. And it does shape us, even if it's not happening to us. And I just see my mom just being so betrayed and so disappointed a lot of times by her interactions with Black men. And so that was a fear for her. So she was in her mind trying to protect me from ever having to go through any of that stuff. So some of the ways she would talk to me about men and some of the things she would say to me about men, that was her way of keeping me aware of, hey, you got to protect yourself. But if it wasn't for having to unlearn some of that stuff, I never would be the type of wife that I'm striving consistently to be or that I am today. I would never be able to really love my little Black boy the way I love him because, those things are become very hard for you to separate, even as your husband, even as your son, because you still start to see them as a man, right? And so a lot of that trauma that Black women have and they mistreat their sons or other men in their life, some of it is their experiences, and then some of it has been passed down to them from generation.
And it's really disheartening because as we started the show off saying, like, we need each other. Like, Black men, we need you. Black women, you need it. It's a puzzle piece that fits together with the things we bring to the table and the understanding that we can have for each other that no other person can have, even though we will never fully know the struggles that each other have. But even still, we can understand like no one else. So we need each other. And so it's really unfortunate to come to the realization that, Black men a lot of times are the pain spot, the trouble and the trauma for Black women, whether it's generationally passed down or personally in their life. And then, like you said, it's the vice versa. Some trauma for men can be women. And I understand but why that it's some systematic play in there too. But at a certain point, it's like, all right, what can we shift? What can we do to stop this? Because the lines of ain't shitness is ridiculous at this point. The lineage of ain't shitness has to stop somewhere. And are you going to be the one to stop it? Because to be honest, in a lot of men's life, their trauma comes from Black men too.
It does. I think that we're constantly in a state of hurting each other. And a lot of that is because we're not listening to understand. We're listening to respond. We're listening to defend. One of the big important things that I would love for us to acknowledge as a community is that there are some of us that are not good people. There are some of us that are not trying to be good people. There are some of us that are so traumatized, so affected that they are incapable of being good people. There are some people that really like to not be a good person. And we're bound at some point to have some sort of interaction with those people at one point or another. And so we can get scorned from that. Some of us tend to find ourselves in situations or environments with more of those people than the latter, than the people that, want to be good people. And so all of that stuff affects us, but our community is not perfect, and we do got some bad apples in there. Some people that
Everybody
not,
does. Yeah.
everybody does. So it's natural that people are going to be in some way affected by when they come into contact with those people, and we need to be able to have grace with one another and understand, like, okay, maybe you are a bit jaded from your experience with people. I approach it the same way. Like, you may know people that has been married, they like, I'll never get married again. That's because that experience that they had in marriage was so toxic, it was so traumatic for them, that it was just like, it's hard to separate that it wasn't per se the marriage, it was the person.
It was the person. But see, that comes with reflection, which a lot of people don't do. Because anger kind of steps in the way of reflection. You can't truly reflect at a whole situation, like the entirety of the situation, when you're angry, because all you see is the hurt, all you see is the pain, and that's where the bitter comes into play, because you haven't healed. Healing is so key and critical and poignant and important, and a whole lot of other words to describe it. When it
Healing is necessary
for the Black culture, for Black people, for melanated people in America, for brown people, for however you want to put it, because we have constantly been through so much trauma that it's going to begot other traumas, even in the present day, where we may feel like, we can live, of course, a more comfortable life than our ancestors, than our grandmother and her mother before her, or her father or his father. We're more comfortable, yes, but we're still dealing with residual trauma from them, and then present day trauma that we're living through, small or large, because people react to different traumas differently. So if we don't start to actively teach how to heal, a lot of the issues that we're having won't be fixed. Black men, we heard y'all last week. Y'all have trauma. Y'all have issues. Y'all have pains. We thank y'all for sharing them. This week we talking about the women, and unfortunately it happened to be Black men that we need to heal from. There's other things.
Yes. It ain't just Black men, because
there's other things we have to heal from. But the whole point is if we don't start to teach the healing, then it's just going to be a residual of pain. So healing and teaching healing skills and techniques are so important. And we have to teach them early. We have to teach the babies. So I think for us in this day and age, it's really important that once you know better, you start to do better and you teach that better.
On that note, one of the things that has become very important to me is to be very mindful of how I allow my daughter to hear me talk about Black men. It's important for me to know that she's not hearing me ever say anything negative about her father or have negativity about her father. This is super important to me because I didn't have that growing up, and it was something I had to essentially unlearn so that I could love on my husband properly, and I could love on other Black men properly outside of my father, my brother. And some of it wasn't my mama's trauma. I don't have much, to your point earlier, a real relationship with my biological father. And it's much to do for whatever it was. But the point of the matter is that we don't have that said relationship. And so there was healing that I had to do as a kid to let that go, because even though I still had a father in my life, no kid will ever say that, you don't still have that little tinge of why my biological parent can't or didn't do such and such and such. So it took time to heal from that, and to not, bring that into adulthood, and not bring that into my relationships that I had with other Black men, because that's a lot of where the trauma starts for a lot of Black women. A lot of Black women grew up not having relationships with their fathers, or not having father figures around. And that's super important, because it's the first interaction that women have with the opposite sex and learning how to deal with the opposite sex. It's
And
their
learning how to
first.
be treated by the
I was
opposite
about to
sex.
say that. Learning how to be treated by the opposite sex,
Yeah.
learning or feeling acceptance from the opposite sex. And even if your daughter does not choose to be in romantic relationships with Black men, maybe she's, part of the LGBTQ plus community, you still need that acceptance from your father. It's important. You still need to have that relationship with your father. And so a lot of Black women's pain and trauma with Black men started there. And so it's
A
so
lot of it stems from daddy issues.
it's a
And I
lot
know people
of
say
it stems
that,
from
and
Black
like we
people.
said, men get triggered by saying women need to be protected by Black men, but a lot of women get triggered by saying you got daddy issues. When in reality,
You
you
know,
do have daddy issues. You do. We
you
do. I'm not even gonna say you. We do, sis.
do.
I also
And
am
we
in
have
that
to
boat.
be
Row.
we gotta
Okay,
be
I'm in
honest
there.
with ourselves about that, or we become captives to that, to
But
that
see, that's the
pain.
traumatic thing. When you're still in your angry, you can't see the full
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
When you still mad, you can't say, okay, you know what, you're right. I do need to say some things to my father or ask some questions or deal with some stuff internally by myself before I can interact in a relationship. Because a lot of people are dealing with, like you said, passed down traumas from your mother or not having your father there. But for me, see, my grandmother was that firecracker, but my mother was as sweet and soft as
Mm-hmm.
butter pound cake. Okay, and so I had the balance of the two of those. And so I've never heard my mother say an ill word about my father to this day. And we grown. Like, it wasn't even like she sheltering us because we kids. Like,
Right.
even if we get to cracking jokes and stuff, she'd be like, but that's still your daddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, she has never said anything ill of my father. He called her and she still pick up the phone and be like, oh, okay, this man did drugs, stole stuff, cheated, had other, like, all types of stuff. And she still be like, okay, and just let him talk and be like, all right, and
So,
pray for him.
and how much has that affected in a positive way your ability to not see your father in every Black man that you come into contact with?
For me to see how my mother handled the situation, I worship that woman. One, because she's just an amazing woman, but I feel like it takes so much strength. Her leaving him, that first step of leaving him, I praise her for, because she loved him. That was her first love, high school sweetheart, got married after high school, had 4 kids. Like, that was her man. And so for her to leave was difficult, but
Yeah.
she left for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, she could have lessened some things within herself and stayed, but she gathered up the strength to be a single mom with 4 kids for us, to protect us from that life that he was starting to walk down.
And
And
that's so hard.
I have 2 younger siblings by my father, so I saw what that looked like for them. And I'm so glad I did not have that experience. And they're both amazing people doing amazing things despite of my father and their mother. And so I honor her for that part, and then how she continues to handle him with respect, even though somebody else would say he don't deserve it. Somebody
A
else would
lot
say
of
that.
people will say
A
that.
lot of people might say that. You
And
know
you
what I'm
feel
saying?
some of that him with respect and love. Like, oh no, he needs to
No,
get
a
the
lot of people
respect.
might say that, but she still handles him with care. And for me, I think that never hindered um my possibility of love. And even though I've seen her have bad relationships, she tried with my father, it didn't work. She got married again, it didn't work. But I also think that hindered me from saying no to some bullshit. I'm gonna be honest with you. Within my marriage that I just came out of. But I love how she handled it, because I think that helps me to go through life with such grace and being able to release people without hating people. I think I've said it on the show before. It ain't nothing to cut that short.
Look, and what
It,
it also has done is it's allow you to still have hope. I
mm-hmm.
think that a lot of Black women's pain is lack of hope. They've lost hope. They've encountered so many disappointments throughout their lifetimes, whatever those disappointments may be, that they have genuinely lost hope that this is what it is. It ain't gonna never be different. If there is someone out there that's not fitting into this box, I ain't gonna never find him. Where
I've
is he?
had those conversations with women. I've honestly had some of those conversations with men
Look,
on the other shoe, okay, on the other side of that other foot. We got another foot, but
right,
I
but
feel
you're
like,
right. You spitting
but
facts.
yeah, I've had those conversations with both sides. So for me, and I'm super optimistic. So I definitely know I get that from my mother. Like, just brighten. It's always positive sides. Some people get tired of me and my positive sides. Okay, I have to ask at the beginning of phone conversations when the
Do
people
you
start
want
talking like,
me to
okay, what you want
listen?
today?
Do you want me to give you positivity?
Right, because
Or
sometimes
just be
they just want to
quiet?
be mad, and I gotta accept that, So I ask like,
Sometimes,
what you want?
sometimes I just want to be mad. Like sometimes,
Right,
like just let
right.
me be mad. I'ma throw
Let me
my
know.
temper tantrum, and then I'ma throw a fit. I'ma get up, put on my big girl drawers, and keep it moving. But let me sit in it for a minute and just let me have my moment.
That's why I start asking. I'm like, you just want me to be an ear, or you need me to? Because automatically, I'm coming with positive. Like from
Right.
jump, you be like this, and I be like, but on the other, they be like, I don't want to hear that right now. I be like, you
Not
right,
right
go ahead.
now. Not right now.
Go
I'm
ahead. I
mad.
give people where they at, where they space are. But like, because I am so optimistic, it's hard for me to just write everybody off.
Right.
And even when people like having the conversation of what men want and what women want, I've had a conversation, even one with Rush, and other people where they started to go like,
We a mess. Don't be bringing Rush is a
oh,
mess.
he a mess. He actually told me that my what I wanted was unrealistic.
We gonna need to talk
And
about that.
then and then he had to change it after he thought about it. And he said, you know what? I'm sorry, I was wrong. He did apologize. He said, what you're asking for is not unrealistic, and you do deserve those things.
Mm-hmm.
But it limits your dating pool. It limits your dating pool. And I say, I'm totally all right with that. I'm absolutely fine. Hey, mama, that's my mama, y'all.
I see. She said, I still have hope to see. Yes, yes, yes. Because it doesn't matter how old you are, it's still the possibility of real, genuine, healthy love out there if you're looking for
I've seen 80-year-olds get married.
Didn't they just have a post like that on Facebook the other day where it was
Probably,
like,
girl, because they out here, and it's like, as long as you're alive, you should be living. That's number one. And I think a lot of times, to your point,
I don't got no tambourine. You can't pass up on that. Shake.
Here you go. So you got it.
Thank you. I had to have a moment.
But as long as you're alive, you should be living. And I think the part to your point about the hopelessness, when people just encounter, tragedy after tragedy after trauma where they feel hopeless, they stop living. They stop living, and they stop letting people in. Yeah. And when you stop letting people in, you're letting you blocking yourself from the wrong ones, absolutely, but you're also blocking and stopping the right one as well. So you can't find the right person for you because you're not letting anyone in. So to my mother's point, like, she's still, hopeful for that good old husband, and she's still a young spring chicken out here.
It still happened. It's already
it's in the ethers. I'm cool with a good stepdaddy. Good. I hope he got some money too, so he can invest in these businesses.
You gotta invest. If he's trying to be in the family, he got to invest.
You gotta invest. I mean, all of us got businesses. So you got 4 kids with 5, 6, 10 different businesses after 4 of us.
You gotta kick in a little bit every business.
We need a stepdaddy with some coin, just to say so. But yeah, and it's like when you block yourself off and you're in that mode of not being able to heal, and living in that anger, you block your blessings. You block growth, you block love, and you block your blessings. And that's the thing about trauma and pain. You can acknowledge the pain, but you have to start healing from it.
I honestly think that that's what a lot of Black women is waiting for. They are waiting for, not for men to necessarily be perfect, because if you're a woman of maturity, you understand that no change is overnight. So it's going to have to take consistent practice from a person. But it's really hard for anything to ever change if, one, you're not acknowledging that there's a problem and you don't know where the problem resides. Like, you need to know and be aware of that. And I think a lot of Black women's pain is just never even getting that acknowledgement. Like, just being dismissed, just being told like it's in your head, you overreacting, you being dramatic, or it's your fault. It's all your fault that you've been treated this way and you run into these things, and not like,
That's manipulation.
Look, it's gaslighting, and a lot of that is why Black women have gotten so resentful, is because it's like, okay, we all make mistakes.
That's also daddy issues too, because if you had a president engaged and good father in your life, he would have let you know that your feelings are valid. So when a man came to you with that nonsense, you would have shut that down a little sooner.
So here's the thing. So I grew up around lots of male protection. So I had my father, who's been in my life from very little. I was like practically a baby when my father came into my life. Before he was actually even married to my mom, he just fell in love with being my father and stepped in and helped and did and did certain things.
Blessings to that man.
I just love him to pieces. Then I always had my older brother. We're 4 years apart, but he's always been very protective over me. I'm his little baby sister, even to this day. I'm extra grown, extra married. You better not mess with me. Like, you just better not mess with his baby sister. Then I have a cousin that is no longer with us. That I was like two peas in a pod with, because we were 8 months apart. And so we were very close. So a lot of my first big things in life I experienced with this cousin: learning to swim, learning to ride a bike without training wheels, learning to drive, learning, every big thing. My children, like, he was a big part of that, because we were 8 months apart. So we were close. We crawled together. We took baths together. I hope that's not embarrassing, but we were babies, don't act like y'all ain't took no baths.
Took a bath for somebody.
Right. So we were very, very, very close, and I've always had his protection, even though we 8 months apart. Like, you better not mess with his tay. You don't mess with me. That was it. And then, as my brother grew friends, a lot of my brother's friends he's been friends with since I was a young girl. So they are brothers to me. They're not but blood brothers, but they are absolutely my brothers, and I call them my brothers. My kids call them uncle. So I grew up around a very big, I have, uncles, I have other male cousins. I grew up very protected by male protection, very much. I grew up very accepted in loves. I was told, even when I didn't feel it about myself, that I was beautiful, I mattered. My brother and my father spoiled me. So, I practically got what I wanted. No, to me at a point in my life was just no, not right now. So I'll ask you later. Like, that was really like my motto. So I grew up with that. Even still, I done gauged the person wrong a time or two. I done gauged.
That's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. And so I feel like part of what Black women's pain is that when they have been scorned or scarred by that person that duped you, that fooled you. You get duped. I didn't get duped. Even with having positive role models, even with knowing better, sometimes you just want, and we get duped in different ways. One of the biggest dupes that we have is being told from very small that the right woman is going to change a man, or the right woman is going to make a man want to change. And that's not true. A man changes because he wants to change. No. And facts, but that has really been said.
No, I mean, I get it. I understand that some women teach that, but that has never been my reality. But even though that has never been my reality, I was duped in that way.
And that's the thing. It happens to us. So it's very, men have been duped. And that's the thing too. Like, I don't know not one man that can say that they ain't been scarred by some woman once or twice. Like, so some woman that did something has been like, oh, okay, you know what? You tried, you duped me, but that's it.
Yeah, I don't know, Sante, if you remember, like one of the first times I had came on the show as a guest. I think it was the first time, either the first or the second time I came on as a guest, and we were talking about like being single and like dating horror stories or whatever like that. And I told my horror story. I don't know if you remember it,
I
but
remember.
you talking about I remember. But the
But
gist
just in
of
case they
that,
don't remember, refresh some
you
memory.
want to refresh them? I got you. So I'm gonna refresh you on this dating horror story. So great man, just wrong for me. Okay. Hanging out with the brothers, super cool. We had a great time together, but we got to a point where, because y'all should know a little bit about me at this point. I'm busy, all right, but I was changing schedules and making time, and all of this great jazz. So we go. We were supposed to kick it one day. Actually, we weren't supposed to kick it this day. He called and he said he wanted to talk to me. So I'm like, all right, cool. And he was like, he wanted to meet up. I had a production meeting. I'm switched it last minute, made it a phone production meeting so we can meet up and talk. So we get there, we small chat, chit chat, and then he gets to the point. And some of the things that he was saying, and this is why I bring this up in this conversation, is because the thing I understand that the things he was saying was due to his personal trauma that he's experienced or that he's seen other men experience. Now, the places of trauma he spoke from, let y'all know. So, one, my good brother told me I didn't pay for anything, right? Like he would take me out and I hadn't, footed any of the bills. So one part of that is we never really went on like a date. We never like sat down in a restaurant. We would like go to the bar, go dancing or something. You know what I'm saying? Like kicking it. So every time we went out, which is when he asked me out, he's like, "Do you want to drink?" Now, me personally, I don't buy drinks, not at no bar, because I'm good with money and I drink before I get to where I'm going. So
All pre-game.
You feel me? I have never walked into a bar and was like, "Let me get that." And all of my years of drinking age, I have never.
Now I'm a pre-game, and then I'm still have to have me a drink or two.
Listen. Now I've been with other people and they didn't walk up to the bar and bought me a drink, but I'm not buying a drink for nobody. I'm gonna drink what I need before I get there. So, because drinks are stupid expensive. For the price of one drink, I could go buy me a bottle and be real nice, okay, and have some for later. So that's just my life, that's me. I don't knock nobody else for buying drinks, because if you buy me one, I'm gonna drink it, okay? So, so live your best life. So we go out and he always asks me, "Do I want something?" So I'm like, "Yeah, sure, give me whatever," right? That's been the whole time. So I'm like, but you want to invite me out. And this could be a whole conversation. Guys, if y'all in the comments, ladies, if you in the comments, let me know. Let me know.
We're gonna end up having a show about that. And negotiables versus non-negotiables. It's time for us to have that combo. So
because
we gonna definitely have to talk about that.
So you invited me out and you asking me, do I want to drink? And I say yes, and you're expecting me to pay. That's the problem for me. Just a little flag on the play. But I'm all for information. So I didn't, I let him continue. So I'm like, okay, what else? Let me understand. I want to understand fully before I make a decision. So that was one thing. Then two, he's like, okay. And then he asked me, and I'm all types of honest. I'm like, I made a decision not to be 100% honest. That's what I decided to do. And then two, he's like, okay, well, even if it's not about paying for the date or whatever, it's like some initial thought or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, like what? And he's like, well, like if you coming over and I'm cooking or something, if you want to bring a bottle or bop or giving examples of stuff. So I'm checking. I'm like, okay, noted. What else? So he continues. Then he's like, based on these things, he was trying to decide if I was using him for dates or not. To the pub for a drink.
So because it infuriates me even the second time hearing it. A lot of that is because, in defense, I have seen and known that women will go on a date with no intentions of dating this person seriously or it
And
advancing
I
in
get that.
life,
That's why I said I
just to
know what
have
he's
free
saying is
food.
from trauma.
Mhm.
It's from
It's from
male
trauma.
trauma,
It
from
is.
men being
Mhm.
triggered and traumatized by women.
Abuse. Being
Because he said that. He was like, well, I've seen it and I've known women who's done it.
right.
But then I had to reiterate him and remind him who he was talking to. Nicely, of course. Just with the
Like,
fact.
sir, I ain't got to use nobody for nothing because I got my own
You
money.
feel me? And just I just had to gently remind him with the facts, So I'm like, okay, if I was doing that, you'd have took me to a nice fancy dinner by now. Okay. Two, I wouldn't be rearranging my schedule to make time for you. And at that time, I was driving and I wasn't driving on the expressway. And my dude lived on the west side and I lived south with an F in the hundreds. I was driving streets back and forth sometimes after work. So I'm like, I'm making efforts here. All of us being negated because I ain't bought you no drink. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay. And then the pitch was, okay, maybe it's not about buying something while we're out, but taking the initiative to bop bop bop. I said, okay, you forgot the time when you cooked and I stopped at the store and called you from the store. I gave him the exact scenario he said he wanted, and I called you and I asked if you wanted me to bring something, and I brought the wine. You forgot about that one. Selective memory is a clearly a piece of that trauma. It's remnants. It's an effect of the trauma, that selective memory. He couldn't remember. So I'm like, oh, yeah, South.
I forget it's a delay with the live. I'm like, hey, what is he talking about? Like, you did say
I live South with an M. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, so
because we live South T at one point was South with the F too.
Oh, you were South with an F too. That's why you laughing. You know my struggle. I'm out here. And then the second part of that was, I was like, okay, all the time I brought over groceries and cooked the full breakfast. You forgot about that time too? And he did. He was like, when was that? I had to remind him, oh, and this happened, and this happened, this happened, this happened. Then he like, oh, then he began to nitpick that. Then he was like, after he remembered, because he forgot, then he was like, oh, but you brought some stuff you had at home already. Did I not still have to pay for that? Did I not take it out of my kitchen and bring it to yours so I can cook it there? Oh, okay. So my overall point was of bringing this
blood
up.
Is boiling again. Every time I hit a store, my blood boils. It makes me angry.
Like, my overall point of bringing this up is like, that was from a place of his trauma. Now, we stopped talking after that. And then after that, I had to stun on him just a little bit because we proceeded to go to the next spot. Because again, I didn't, cuss my man out or nothing like that. I was just like, all right, we had this conversation. Thank you for being honest. So I know how to move. Thank you for being honest. But we didn't even end the night there. He like, my friend up the street at the spot. You want to go to the spot? I'm like, for sure. Let's go to the spot. Let's dance. I like to dance. Right? Then he like, you got... He like, you got many.
Wait, how come you had Joe? I'm assuming you have seen oh shit. This brain of mine. What is the movie? Somebody help me out. Where it's got Cameron in it and he Rico and Ace. It was, oh my god. What is the name?
When they was gangsters?
Yeah, Ace was the man. It had Mekhi Phifer in there.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name.
I'm thinking the name right now. Paid in Full. I'm like, what?
Okay, I'm so one of them gangster movies.
Look, I feel now I'm bothered. Like, how did I forget Paid in Full? But girl, just the way you was like, you was just talking. I was like, she remind me of somebody. That's Rico. That's that.
Look, Robert helped you out. Paid in Full.
I got it now, babe. I got it. It took me a little minute. No, 25 sometimes don't work right.
That's because that movie before your time is all.
Hey now, I see you, sis, coming in for the live. I see you. I got you.
But man, and yeah, so we went out dancing. He asked me if I had some money to pay for the entry fee. I say, yeah, we get the. They haggling numbers and stuff. You know how they be. It's the end of the night. They still trying to make people pay $10 to get in. No, thank you. Then they're like, all right, 10. I bet. So I'm in front. So I pull my cash out. I slide the man $100 bill. Like, need you for what, sir?
That's a Benjamin. That's Ben, baby. Ben.
Need
Like,
you for what, sir? But I say all of that to say is that all of what he was saying was coming from a place of trauma, from either that he experienced or that he's seen someone else experience. And he brought that trauma to me. And I didn't hate him for it. I just moved around because I know that's not the energy that I'm calling in a partner that I'm talking to. Because the person that I'm channeling is going to want to take care of me and more than just buying me a drink. Okay. And then two, for me, if I was still in my angry and not healed from my past experience, that would have triggered me into my trauma, because what happened previously before that relationship was my marriage. And that was a issue within my marriage where I paid for everything and I was footing the bill for everything and he would not step up. So a man asking me to pay for something, again, if I was still in my anger, would have triggered some stuff. But I politely the next day sent him the text message explaining what, how I felt. And I was like, we could still be friends. And we still cool. Again, he's a really nice guy. He just ain't the one for me.
He's not the man. He's not the husband.
He's not the one for me based on that trauma. And so I had to sit in my reflection and realize, not today, devil. You're not finna get me again with the same bullshit. And and move around because of that.
But that's also a very important thing, which goes back to the whole Black woman pain thing and peace, is that you were dealing with some trauma still that could have very well been like a constant reminder of, man, you know what? So this is just men. This is an expectation of men everywhere. Like, is this what? And a lot of women have those instances happen back to back. And it's this assumption that they spend so much time and effort and get duped. But sometimes you get duped right out the gate, and it doesn't negate the fact that you've been duped, period. Like, it's like, okay, there's still guys out here that just doing this type of thing, and this is how they approach the situation. And I hate to hear when it's that assumption that you're always choosing the wrong person. It's like, no, I didn't even give this person as much time. I feel that way too when I hear people get mad at females for wanting to do better. I see a lot of memes and arguments and, oh, well, now you don't want to give people grace and you don't want to do this. Like, there is a line. There is a line of Black women giving Black men grace. But
it's called boundaries.
Better. It's boundaries. Like, why are you now?
That's healthy to set boundaries.
And she's trying to do better, and that's still wrong. So a lot of times,
because that's what that was for me. I had to set that boundary. That's why when he asked me, I told him, I'm like, no, that's a decision that I made. And that's because that is now a boundary for me. And not to say that, you can't give people grace, but you can also give entirely too much grace to the wrong person. And that's what happened in my situation. And I'm like, I'm not doing that again. So I actually honored the fact that happened immediately after my divorce, because I was like, universe be trying. Universe be like, did you learn? I was like, I learned, universe. Okay. But again, not being angry at that situation or that man, but taking it for what it was and just acknowledging that wasn't the right situation for me.
And that's a fine point. And when you both are coming from the same space, but couldn't hear that y'all were coming from the same space. So you have been in previous relationships where you have been taken advantage of, and so had he. So you both were trying to set those boundaries. You both were trying to do better. But because there wasn't a communication and mutual understanding of the betterment you were trying to strive to have, it was like, okay, so you just trying to take advantage. And you just trying to take advantage. And okay, he wasn't it for you. But how different would that conversation have been if it had went differently? If it wasn't this assumption that you were just like the last woman that took advantage? What if he had that conversation, like maybe y'all first date, when you talked about your negotiables and your non-negotiables, that he said, hey, I've been used in the past, and I'm trying to find balance in that, and I have concerns because I've found myself being taken advantage of, when dating.
I
And
would
then
have wholeheartedly respected that. I
exactly,
feel like communication is the best thing going. Okay,
yeah,
like it's just on Hot Wheels on a racetrack, just go. It's just whew. Like when you was a young kid and you have to play with your Hot Wheels. You know what
I
I'm saying?
see, I
It's
see.
just what I'm saying. If you like Barbie, it was that brand new Barbie on Christmas Day. You know what I'm saying? It's the best thing out here.
Girl,
Like
I had
what
a
I'm saying. If
Barbie
you like
limo.
cake,
My
whatever
Barbie limo had
analogy
a
you
pool
want
in
to
the
use.
back. My Barbie limo was cool.
You know
I
what I'm
couldn't
saying?
go there
It's
for.
that. It's that feeling. Okay. That's communication for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always been an advocate for just speaking your piece, whatever that is for you, whatever you need to say it, and let's
Would
talk
you
about it.
had approached the situation differently if y'all were under that understanding? Like, we both don't want, so I think when you communicate from that space and you hear each other to understand, it allows for you to make different types of conscious moves, right? So then it's like, okay, I
Absolutely.
don't want to take advantage of you because I know how that felt. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to take advantage of me because you know how that felt for me. And I think that that's, again, a big problem between Black men and Black women understanding each other, is that we're trying to safeguard ourselves against the same types of pain
Mm-hmm.
because we've experienced the same types of pain, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to safeguard ourselves against that. And so in doing that, however, we inadvertently hurt the other person. We hurt the other people because it's like, I'm trying to be safe. So I'm putting up all of these walls and these boundaries, not understanding that you're trying to be safe. And then now we all just, going a separate way. And I feel like even with your example of this young man, if that had been said like, hey, I've been hurt this way before, I'm not trying to go there again. Where do you stand on that? Like, what are your principles? And then you could have said, hey, I've been hurting that way too. How can we meet in the middle where nobody feels hurt? Like, because I don't want to make you feel like that, and you don't want to make me feel like that. That could have been something very different. That relationship could have gone very different, but it was the approach.
It definitely was the approach, and then it was like after all of the time that we have been spending together, you really don't know me as a person if
Right.
you think that could even be something that would be a possibility. So then it was like, okay, you really not paying that much attention. But then it was the selective memory for me. I was like, oh yeah, no. Everything else I was listening to, I'm like, we can talk about that. Okay, we can communicate
But
that.
that
Okay,
was like,
it was like,
yeah.
oh, okay, because then it's like, okay, so you're not even appreciating the things that I am doing. You just see what I'm not doing because that's
And that probably was, again, going back to that pain and that trauma that he had dealt with before, which is a lot of why Black women, feel and say the things that they say about Black men. It's not because they don't want to like Black men or love on Black men. A lot of us have just been cut so deep. I
and they
mean,
like, I ain't getting cut again.
because it takes a lot of resilience. It takes a
Because
lot of
I know some women who've been cut,
like
like
cut,
sliced up by
cut,
some
cut, and got back
craziness.
up and tried to do it again, and then
And
got
got cut
cut
again.
again.
Oh my God. I know some women that has gone through the ringer.
Mhm.
Like Lifetime movie almost type stuff.
Oh,
Like,
I believe you.
oh God. Oh God. But it's like in the face of that, the strength it takes to stand for anyone who's been hurt in that capacity to stand up and continue to live and continue to open themselves up. Y'all need a purple heart. Ain't that what they get of the soldiers? Like,
It
y'all
is.
need a
It
purple
is.
heart. And I know that's hard. And for people who may be listening, that's like, yeah, nah, I ain't opening myself up to that no more. Again, opening yourself up to experiences and people, even if it's not romantic, but just in general, because a lot of times when you close yourself off for romantic situations, you're closing yourself off, period, and probably don't even realize it. But that's living.
Yeah.
Interactions and experiences is living. So it's really a fear of being hurt again, versus you living your life.
Because that hurt is, it's crippling sometimes.
It
That
is.
hurt
And
is
it
very
hurts. It's
hard. It's
painful.
painful, but then even once you get to a point where you're not bleeding all over the place, you just got like this scar. You never want to do that again. It's kind of like, you don't touch the stove. If you touch it and you seen it's hot, you gonna burn yourself. You don't
You
want
ain't gonna
to
touch
do
that
that
stove
again.
no
You're
more.
not gonna touch it again. Like, you're gonna
Right.
try to adjust the behavior. I do feel though, however, sometimes the adjustment isn't the correction that we need. The adjustment is to hold grudges and be resentful. And that does not make things better for us. But I really need for other people in our community, to understand how difficult it is to be hurt as a Black woman. Because one of the things that is a Black woman's pain, honestly, is the expectation that we must be resilient all the time, that we must bounce back, that we are strong and we're built to
And
endure,
that we have to deal with bullshit.
and that we
To be
have to.
100% honest, like I think a pain and the expectation of Black women is that we have to deal with bullshit and we can't falter in the face of bullshit.
At all.
And that itself is bullshit.
It's
I
bullshit.
know I said that a lot of times, but
No,
it
no, no, but
is.
you can say it again. It's bullshit. It's
It's
all bull.
bullshit.
It's all bull.
Because it's that strong Black woman thing. And the weight of the world has been on a Black woman's shoulder since the beginning of the world.
The
Because
beginning.
we birthed the world. Let's be honest. And when it came to ancestrally speaking, in America, slavery, our men dealt with so much. As women, again, we have different pains, but we both have pains nonetheless. The women dealt with so much, from being raped and having their kids taken away, and then watching your man get beat and having to bear him and help him, and then, you know what I'm saying, him having to watch you get raped. It's like and then sometimes you having to watch him get raped because it was real.
It was.
It's all of those traumas, and then being passed down, then systematically them taking the men away from the household. The ones that were there, they couldn't afford to, fend for their families. They left, they chose to leave so their family can eat. So now you have a woman literally bearing the weight of the whole household and the kids
Oh
on
my
her
God.
shoulder. And until today, where that's still a thing, where men is not present, and in between, where men was in the house but they had 3 other families, and we just had to be okay with that, because they the man or they the breadwinners and they pay the bills or whatever it was that a lot of our grandmothers and aunties have trauma from. And it's like, that's a problem, because still to this day in 2021, people look at a Black woman and expect that Black woman to be able to stand and take all the BS
It's
and
an
smile.
expectation, and it's weaponized oftentimes when we're not. When we are tired, when we
Hold on one
do
second.
falter and we do get exhausted, it totally becomes a weapon against us. Oh, wait. Okay, sis done left. I think you said, hold on, wait a second. That must mean your cord must be needed.
You feel me? Plug a plug. Pull our
Plug.
loose.
It must be about the plug. But it gets weaponized, and that's another injury that we have to deal with then, because it dehumanizes us. It's like, I can't allow myself to be tired. I can't allow myself to want to just, be weak. I have to deal with your mistreatment of me to prove to you that I care about you and I love you, but I can't mistreat you. Because if I mistreat you, then what will you think about me?
Out
What
the
will you say
door.
about me?
And then the same thing when it comes to cheating. And women's pain, one of women's pains that I've seen firsthand is, again, women being expected to just deal with the BS and take it on the chin and smile about it, is
And me.
men cheating. Because then there's a boys will be boys thing, and men, this is the thing, I don't know if y'all have heard it, but I've heard it said that men can cheat and it doesn't mean anything, so that it should be allowed. That, but I'm coming home to you though type situation. She was just a jump off, but I love you and I'm coming home to you. Then why are you sleeping with her? And women, certain women, and no shade to however you live and decide to live your life in your relationship, if it's working, keyword, if it's working, then cool. But women have been like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. He gonna sleep with other people, but he coming home to me, and they're good with that. Now, again, if your relationship, live your best life. If it's working for you and y'all have established something, go ahead, live your life. If it's working, really working, and you not just accepting stuff
I
because
think
of
I
whatever
think that
reason.
the understanding of why infidelity hurts women is very misunderstood. Yeah, of course, she may be mad about the sex, but she's more mad about the lack of the betrayal. She's more upset about you not being honest,
That part.
and that you someone's having you in a way she may not have you also. And then she's also angry because whatever time that you're spending with that person is time away from you spending that and investing in them. And
And
a lot of
sometimes
times
money.
money, but a lot of times too, women are also hurt about the infidelity because maybe they were doing all the things that they were supposed to be doing or told that they were supposed to do, and maybe they cooking. Because I know that there was this, I was in my feelings and I was going in when WAP came out, because I love the song. I don't care who knows it. I love the WAP song. Okay,
I love the wops.
I know all the words when it comes on and I'm alone without my children. I dance to the
Okay, you
WAP.
be whopping it out, so it's
I be
okay.
whopping it out. Every time I'm making mac and cheese, I'm thinking macaroni in a pot. It's like I love the WAP song, right?
Live
But
your best life.
look, that's I like me some Cardi. Like I got a whole bunch of other personalities people don't know.
Megan
Sometimes
is here too.
listen, sometimes I'm in the car and I'm in these streets. I don't feel nothing, but in
And
the car in that moment, I'm in these streets. I'm a gangster,
you
right? And sometimes I'm ratchet, so I be in here, twerking all in the car.
twerk, twerk for Rob, okay?
Girl, he ain't marry me just for my cooking. Let me
Okay.
say. But I'm just saying that to say, like, I know when that song first came out, there was this big old thing because one of the lines in the song was, "I don't cook, I don't clean. Let me tell you how I got this ring," right? And they like, "Oh, she don't cook, she don't clean, she on this, she on that. That's why he out there cheating now. He done did this and he done did
But
that."
every woman don't cook and
But
clean.
here's the thing: there is a lot of women that did the cooking, did the cleaning, and there are a lot of your
And they still
grandmothers.
got cheated on.
There are a lot of your great grandmothers. I see you, bud. He got the little shit. I see you.
Right? He like, hey, she be twerking.
But they did all of that stuff and still, their mates straight. They still did
But see,
whatever.
the thing is, this is the premise too, because I know this to be a black woman's pain, is that you can't be the right woman for the wrong man. And to my mother's point here too, and about the cheating aspect of it is, if you emotionally cheat on a man, they be ready to leave. If you got a work husband, they be out the door.
They be mad. Mad,
Big
mad.
mad, ready to
Mad,
leave you.
mad.
He could have cheated 10 times and you took him back. You cheat once, he'd be like, oh, I can't deal with
I
this.
can't deal
I
with it.
can't deal with it.
I
But
can't deal
you
with it.
cannot be the right woman for the wrong man. I've
Point
lived
blank
that.
period.
I've seen it and I lived it. You could be cooking, cleaning, throwing it back. Listen, taking care of the kids, all whatever you needed to do that he wanted, and he could be living his best life with you, and he'll still walk out the door and cheat or leave you for somebody else, because you cannot be the right woman for the wrong man. You can't
Ever.
make a man commit. Let's get that out the way, because that's a black woman's pain.
You
You
can't
cannot make
change him.
a
You
man
can
commit.
change his
Kids
mind.
ain't gonna change nothing. Let's
Marriage
talk
definitely
about
ain't
it.
gonna change nothing.
Marriage ain't gonna change nothing. If anything, it'll make it worse. It ain't gonna make him stay or make anything better. Because if he don't want you, he don't want you. And
The
his
only
actions will
the
show you he
only
don't want you.
change that ever happens is by choice. That's it. It has to be a choice
And you
that
can't teach him
person makes,
neither.
and you can't
Unless
teach
he willing to
him
learn.
unless he's willing, and unless he is not only going to be willing to accept your tutelage, but be active in it as well. Because he can hear you, and you can tell him, like, you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. So
He
you
gonna stand
have
there
to
and look at it.
absolutely understand that you know you can't change a person either. They make the choice to change. And I feel like a lot of times we behold ourselves to being that woman because that's what we've been told. A lot of us have been
It's
told
that ride or die complex.
that ride or die complex. If you are the right woman, that man is gonna settle down. Like from young, in order to catch a man, you have to cook, clean, keep house, be able to do all of these things, or you're not gonna be wifey material. Like, and then when you doing those things and you still have
But
your
see, the
heart,
thing is Black woman's pain. You taught how to get a man or how to keep a man, but we are not taught what type of man to be looking for. We out here cooking, cleaning, and taking care of house for all these Negroes when they don't deserve it. I think the conversation needs to be more so on how to make a well-rounded woman, but then also what not to accept and what to accept from a man. Because the truth is, we're all looking for love. I'm not even gonna say oh, because some people might not be. They be like, I don't want, yeah.
and
But
that's
a
okay.
lot of us, and that's okay too. A lot of us, I'll change my statement, is looking for love. Men and women, because like I said earlier, I've had conversation with women where they were like, "Look, is it ever gonna change? I'm tired of running to the same kind of guys." But I've had conversation with men that are saying the exact same thing. Is it ever gonna change? I keep running to the same kind of women. Everybody ready to give up, but I say you got to keep going until you find the one that is looking for you too. Because the thing is about it is we can't get so wrapped up in emotions and settling, because straight up that's what it be, for the wrong person, because that's who's there right now, when your Mr. Right can be on the other side of right now, or your
And
Mrs.
I
Right.
gotta say, since you brought up the settling word, settling and giving grace are two different things.
Separate.
They are not
Absolutely.
the same.
Absolutely.
When you settle, you are setting yourself up to be misused, to be abused, and to
And
not
not get
be
what you
happy
want
and not get what you need.
or need. Yeah.
Exactly. Grace is understanding that your other person is going to make mistakes, that they are not perfect, but
Mm-hmm.
that whatever those mistakes are, that it's never um malicious, it's never intended to be a detriment, that they want to grow and they recognize, acknowledge, and are making the modifications in their behavior moving forward, and they're trying to do better. That's giving grace. That's allowing somebody to right their wrong, to recognize that it was wrong and make adjustments and do better. And I feel like that also gets misconstrued. It gets weaponized too. So when a woman is like, okay, this isn't a grace moment, this would be a settlement moment, she's bashed for that. She's bashed for setting boundaries and having standards. And that also is a part of Black women's pain. It's like, I want to do better and it's still wrong. Like, I
But
can't
see, I think that's the thing too when it comes to Black women's pain. We have to realize that we gonna get bashed for whatever we choose to do. If we dealing with less than, they gonna be looking at you like you crazy. Why she dealing with that? Why she tolerating that? If you want to do better and start setting standards, they gonna be like, oh, she thinks she uppity now. Like either way it goes, you have to do what's best for you. A Black woman's pain is always being judged. We're gonna always be judged. If we got our hair straight, we're gonna be judged. If we got our hair curly, we're gonna be judged. If we got a weave, we're gonna be. Do you do whatever works best for you? You just have to be. I think it comes back to what Gino said last week, that women want respect,
That's
but it
it. We
starts
all
with
want it.
self-respect.
It does. It does. But that's also a part of Black women's pain, is that they never feel respected. Black women don't feel loved. They don't feel admired. They don't feel beautiful. Um,
Protect.
they're protected. And I've had so many arguments about the protect. I mean, because Black men really get upset.
They get mad.
And I just remember having this protection conversation with my brother. It was like it was getting heated too, because he was like, but that's not true, and this and that. And the guys that I hang around, and you of all people subscribe to when women say that, and you had ample Black protection. And I said, here's what I say to that. First and foremost, I'm a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
I'm a drop in the darn ocean. So that means that The vast majority of these other drops don't have the same type of love and protection that I had. And then what we're saying is that most men that argue that that's not true will automatically say it's because they protect their sister, their mother, their aunt, their daughters, their cousins, females that are part of their immediate village.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about Black woman protection, it's seeing all Black women as part of your village. So you may not know her, but if she needs help, help her. You may not know her, but if she's sad, uplift her. That is what they mean by not feeling protected. Um, I've never met George Floyd. I've never met a lot of people that have died at the hands of, you know, social injustice. But yet, I'm going to advocate. I'm going to speak out against. I'm going to be in support of. I'm going to put myself out there. It's the same thing for the work that I do. I don't know a client, you know, a survivor of sexual assault before I get to the hospital, before they make that call. But now that you're here, I'm going to advocate for you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to speak out for you. It's not just your mom, your sister, your daughter that's part of your village. Look at all Black women as part of your village. And if
That
you look
part.
at it that way,
Because a lot of Black women don't have that same support. Like you
they
said, like you would
don't.
drop in the ocean, but the whole concept should be that we're all one village.
We're all one village. And if we can see it that way, because I don't have to know a Black man to love him, I don't
Same.
have to know a Black man to see value in him. And Black women just want to have that same grace, because a lot of us have loved from that place of unconditional love. Like, just because you are a Black man and I know that you don't get enough of it, I want to love on you. I want to be you know, I look like you. I want you to feel that love and acceptance from somebody that looks like you. But then that's not always reciprocated. That's not always what's given back. And so when
Mhm.
Black women are saying, I don't feel protected, I don't feel love, it's because a lot of times y'all, you know, others are oppressing us just like the rest of the world does,
Mhm.
just like everybody else. We get told that we're not beautiful because A, B, and C, and then you go and you tell me the same thing. You uphold that European standard that if I'm beautiful, I have to do this and look this way and be that way. Like, we just want to be accepted the same way that you guys want to be loved and accepted. And because that's not extended the same way, and it's all of this pressure for us to fit a standard that's not fair. And when we set a standard for you, then that's wrong too. Then we're bashed for that. And so a lot of Black women pain is just not feeling loved, not feeling reciprocity in what they give out, feeling misunderstood, not being protected, being left alone, having to hear and see the pain of their fellow Black women, their peers. That's a lot of why they are so angry, why they're so standoff, they're unaccessible, and they treat Black men the way that they do, because you're
Or
part
that famous word bitter.
bitter, resentful. Because resentment is serious.
Yeah.
Resentment will take anything down, any relationship down. And so I just want for us as a community to recognize that, just like last week, it was important for us to hear that Black men are suffering too, because I think that we forget that as Black women, that Black men are going through it, that some Black men are dealing with things that we have no idea that they're going through. They're dealing with the same type of self-esteem issues that we're going through. They have to hear that they're not, you know, important, and they're not human, and they're not worthy, by seeing plenty of Black men get killed, etc. So we have to keep that in the forefront and love them from a place of grace, because they're dealing with and going through just like us. But then I think Black men need to meet us there too, and recognize that we're going through, we're suffering with you. It hurts us to watch you suffer and struggle, So I'm feeling that
Absolutely.
vicarious trauma. And then if I have a
Mhm.
black son, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is what, he has to go. I'm stressing about that
Absolutely.
too. So it's like we're
Absolutely.
we're all going through the same things at the same time. And because we're not willing to see it from the other person's shoes, the other person's perspective, we're against each other and it's dividing us. It's so divisive. I just want us to love on each other.
It comes back, I think, to, and it's gonna always come back to communication.
Mhm.
Being able to say, I see you. Because this is what I feel. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong. But I feel this is what everyone wants. Some to be seen truly, to be heard truly, and then to see action follow that. So if we can all be transparent and 100 with each other and say, look, this is what I'm going through. This is how I feel. Coming to the table, if you know you dating for something serious, I feel like that's how you should walk into the restaurant or wherever you at. Just come to the
Yeah.
table like, look, here's all the cards.
Facts.
This is how I feel. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm working on. This is what I've overcome. This is what your turn. Like, because in that transparency and that openness, it grants entry. If you come that way, there's no fillers, there's no none of that childish. You gotta wait 3 weeks to text. There's none of that. No, if I'm coming open, this is where I am. My heart is open. You decide. You choose if this is what you want, and if it is, I need you to be just as open.
Right.
If that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for something serious, then I think that's how we have to come to the table. But in order to get to a place to lay the cards out, you have to know the cards you hold it. You have to do that healing work, and it's okay not to be in a relationship. I'm gonna say this again for the people in the back. It's
It's okay.
okay not to be in a relationship.
Be in a relationship with yourself.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to the conversation we had with the men and the women about why are you single and being single. Both sides had some powerful things to say on why they were single, because they're working on themselves, because they know what type of mate they want to be with, and so they're trying to be that first.
Whew.
They're trying to bring things to the table. They're trying to heal
Yeah.
themselves. And that's that part I think that's so important when we talk about the pains we all have. Yes, men have pain. Yes, women have pain. Yes, we need each other and we're better together. But first, you got to deal with your shit.
First,
First.
because it's not anybody's responsibility to deal with it for you. It's not fair to ask for them to deal with it.
And that's a black woman's pain.
That's a black woman's pain.
Having to, like, it's like a given that you come to the table with a bag of shit, and we supposed to wash it and fold it and hang it up in the closet.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
That's I'm glad you brought that up because that is a huge part of black woman's pain is not understanding what her role is supposed to be.
And it's not super saver.
It's not. And it's not if it's not also to fill voids. Like I feel like that comes up a lot when it's women. It's like I'm not your dad. Women be looking for people to fill that void of this and that and the third. Well, that's an expectation of us a lot of times too, is to
I'm not
fill
your
that
mama.
void. You weren't nurtured. So you want me to be nurturing, you want me to be soft and all of these things that you didn't experience. That's not my job. It's not my job to build your confidence. It's my job to reinforce it. So like when you are struggling to hold on to your confidence that you already have and create it for yourself because maybe the world beat you up a whole lot more today, that I'm here to reinforce the fact that you matter and that you're important. And I don't give a damn what they said out there. You are important. You is fine,
Absolutely.
you is smart, and you is
You's
important.
amazing.
That's it. That's it. So it's not my job to build your confidence for you, but I should be helping keep it reinforced. I shouldn't be tearing it down. I shouldn't be diminishing it and depleting it. But it's not my job to build it for you. It's not my job to figure your shit out.
Come
It's
on.
not my job to figure it out. What is my job is to figure me out so you
And you
don't have
figure you out.
to worry about it. And we
And then
come
when we come
together.
together, come on here, it's cohesive and we figure it out. That is the part, because when you really want to talk about black woman's pain, and then that ride or die complex, all of that comes with the bag that you have to fix this. Are you, or you have, either you have to fix it or you have to deal with it until I fix it. No,
No.
you fix it first and then come holler at me. And then that was another thing with the situation that I brought up earlier. I see you have that trauma, and I'm not blaming you for having that trauma. I know that may be some things you experience, but you need to fix that before you hollering at me, because I'm still trying to fix mine, and it's conflicting right now. Like, fix that, and then maybe we can talk. Because I can't fix that. That's already been something that I've marked off my list. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so be alone until you find the space where you're comfortable in some things that you've settled and healed within yourself before you get into a new relationship. I've seen people get out of one bad relationship, hop into a next relationship, it turned into the same relationship they just got out of, and then they do that 3 more times. Stop. Take a break. Step away, log off if you need to, and sit with yourself. Analyze the last relationship before you get into the next one. Analyze yourself, what you learned, what were your flaws, what, and you got to analyze and reflect before you move into the next thing, or you'll be moving into the same thing you just walked out of.
Because you didn't give yourself time to really know what the mistakes were. You didn't give you time to assess it. You pretty much just threw some duct tape on it and kept it moving. Like, that's,
Right.
you're not gonna do that with your car. You be stranded. So why would you do
Right.
that with your life? Why would you do that with your time? Because you don't get that back. And so every time that you invested in the wrong space, that's it. You've wasted that time, and you need to be comfortable being and sitting with yourself before you could ever ask someone else to be comfortable and sit with you.
Enjoy
You,
your own
you
company.
gotta enjoy yourself first. I know we getting close to the end. There was another part of Black women's pain that I wanted to address that has nothing to do with Black men, but also has something to do with other Black women. I feel like a lot of Black
Mm-hmm.
women pain also is each other. We tear each other
Mm-hmm.
down. We hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
We scratching at one another. We can't support each other. We can't, root for one another. We in competition all the damn time. Like, so it's not even just Black men. It's
Mm-hmm. It's
us.
ourselves too.
It's us. It's
And
us.
I think that there's some duality to that too, because there are some amazing sisterhoods. Just like we said earlier, there's good and bad people in everything, in every genre of race and everything. Good and bad. There's duality. But there are some amazing women who support each other. But I think the trend, it has become trendy to become catty. It has become trendy to be a bitch. It has become trendy based on a whole lot of things, social media, reality television, all of these other things that are ill for our community. And so what baffles me is how it has trickled down to our children.
Yes.
There are elementary school girls, and first of all, kids can be cruel anyway.
Yes, they
uh
can.
we all know that, because they ain't got no filters. They just be saying stuff, and then you put some bad
Hmm.
environment on top of that and sprinkle it with some what they saying they mama and daddy do, and
And
you
what
gonna
they see
become
on
more,
TV.
and what they see on TV, and it's gonna be even worse. So when I see elementary school girls, and then it also goes into high school and college as well, but specifically the babies, like the elementary school girls coming at each other and catting each other out and cussing each other out and being mad at each other and making bullying each other for bodies, because I'm skinny and you big, or you big and I'm skinny, for shades, you dark and I'm light and you
For hair
dark,
texture.
for hair texture, for a little boy that they like.
Look, because
My
he throwing you
boyfriend like you,
attention.
or you like my boyfriend, or I saw him looking at you, and so now I'm gonna be mad
That's
at you
the
and come
that's
at
the
you.
competition aspect of it, is that we have been conditioned to believe that we are against each other and we have to compete against each other when we don't.
Well,
We're
that is not the
stronger
case.
together. Like we should be giving each other boost up and helping each other when we can, and being that support and showing up for one another. It doesn't have to be a competition, but it is somehow it is like we're against each other, and that's a lot of pain too that Black women are carrying around, is being scarred and scorned from people that they thought were in their corner, and not having understanding, selfishness. Sometimes we could be really selfish to each other, and that's just not, that's not okay. We actually provide more grace for the guy that's running over, us, but then treat our girlfriend that shows up for us all the time and that's there less than. Don't
Mm.
give them the effort. That's a lot of Black women's pain too, is not knowing who they could trust, who they can depend on, who's actually on their side. How many women that's watching the show have been backstabbed by a female friend, has been betrayed by a female friend? So it's just so.
It make it hard to know who to trust and who you can share
Yeah.
certain things with. Like I feel like we shouldn't have to feel like we gotta be like, oh, I can't say that to Tiffany because it's gonna get back to so and so. Well, I can, like, because it also in that case in my mind, like we shouldn't even be friends. Like if I can't
Look,
trust you wholeheartedly, what we talking about? I'll say, hey, when I see you in the streets, but why are we friends? Like you can't have that term. I feel like we gotta safeguard that term a little more. People be too loose with, oh, that's my friend. No, I know that person. That's
and I
my
think
associate.
what they said, because I will friend somebody to death. But I have different levels of friendship. Not all my friendships are intimate friendships. They're acquaintanceships, which can also be friendships. We have a good time together. We can coexist in a space, and it feel
Yeah.
good.
You gotta
Friendship.
pocket them. Like, oh, that's my going out and kicking
Right.
it friend. That's my when I'm in my feelings friend. That's my
That's my
business friend.
boo. No matter what, I can spill my guts, my tea,
My
my
day one friend.
my
Like
day one, since day one friend. Like
you gotta have pockets.
you got different levels of friendship. But if I can't trust you and I have to look at you out the corner of my eye, then there is no friendship. I have to be able to trust you exactly on what level I have you on. And if I can't trust you on that level, that you gonna be less than that, then that
Then you're
is
not
no friendship.
existent then, if that's the case. And I
That
think one thing again, it goes back to communication and healing. Being transparent is a beautiful thing. If you can't trust your situation, if you can't trust somebody enough to be transparent in front of them, they probably shouldn't be
hmm,
your friend. But then two, we have to heal ourselves, but we also have to reprogram ourselves because the way we treat each other is programming. The
hmm.
way we look at each other is programming. Going back to the old light, dark, big, small, straight hair, long hair, that's programming. We have to reprogram ourselves, but first we have to identify that there's a problem. Because if you don't see a problem in your behavior, then you're gonna act the exact same way.
Is nothing's gonna change.
Nothing's gonna change. Just like we said earlier about the men, you can't change no man, you can't change no woman either.
You can't change anybody.
You
It
can't
don't
change
matter
nobody but that baby's
how you
diaper.
identify, because we do have non-binary persons out there as well. So it doesn't matter who you are. You can't change anyone else.
Anyone.
Shoot, half the people spend money trying to train their pets, and sometimes when that pet feel like petting an animal, that's what they do. They not.
No matter how many thousands you done
No
spent on a trainer.
matter what, no matter how many treats you gonna try to offer them, like you come home, your garbage toe up. Why y'all think, that human beings that are real free moral thinkers and agents aren't going to do what they do and be who they are? You can't change a person. A person has to choose to change. They have to, that is a personal decision to say, I'm gonna do better. Anytime that I've changed my behavior is because I chose to, because I wanted to. I had the desire to. It was me. It wasn't because I pissed somebody off. It wasn't because somebody wasn't my friend anymore, or I even hurt a feeling. It was like, that wasn't right. I acknowledge that wasn't right. I want to do better. I want to not do that again. I want to not hurt that person in the same space. in the same way and like that again. I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. It's a personal choice. So
And
we
as women, we have to come together because similar to like we were saying with the men and the women, like we identify and we understand with each other, especially as other Black women. Whole nother level of understanding there. So if we can't be wholeheartedly transparent and honest and receptive of each other, then what are we doing? It, again, that reprogramming has to happen because we don't naturally want to hate each other. I don't think that's a thing. Like,
I also blame, and we did a show like this earlier on when we were talking about why we can't be friends and talking about the breakdown with sisterhood in the Black community, because there is a breakdown in our sisterhood in our community. And one of the things that I know firsthand because I heard it and I asked, the guests on the show and people that were watching if they experienced that too. Was hearing a lot of times that ain't your friend. I don't like that friend. That ain't none of your friend. You can't trust these girls. You can't trust those girls. Like so many Black women grow up hearing that. Again, that's trauma that a lot of times don't even belong to us. It belongs to what happened to, our mother, grandmother, great grandmother, auntie, cousin. It happened to them. And they're telling us that my experiences were you can't such and such and such and such. And when
you
you
know what?
hear
I
that,
also think that goes to our upbringing as well, and what we probably can incorporate to help fix the problem is just like we say that ain't none of your friend because of whatever, whatever. Are we teaching our children what kind of behavior qualifies as a good friend?
are
Or
we
what
also
that looks
teaching
like?
them how to be a good friend?
Right.
Because that's something that's super important that I have conversations with my daughter a lot. Is that I ask her often, well, are you that type of friend to that person? Are you making sure that you're accessible to that person? Are you being mindful for that person as well? Like I want her to
Are
know
you
what it means.
listening to that person?
You need to be mindful of what it means to be a good friend.
That
And
teaches that reflectiveness
that's
too.
reflectiveness. But sure as the day is long, you will encounter some girls that just not really trying. They don't know how to be a good friend. They maybe have never seen healthy female to female relationships because a lot of mother daughter relationships are strained. We did a show on that talking about how to have better relationships with your daughters and patching things up from mother daughters. A lot of female relationships are strained peer wise because it's strained with their moms. They don't have healthy mother daughter relationships, so that's their first interpretation of what it means to have same sex friendships, to have same gender relationships. So all of that stuff plays a role. Ultimately, we have to be very mindful of the examples we're setting for ourselves, our children, what we're telling them, that we're not pushing off our experiences on them and making them adopt our experiences as their own, and giving them the tools to recognize the things that they need to, but still having the ability to experience and give people the chance and the opportunity, because sometimes we make people guarded going in. I know that I was guarded in a lot of ways, and it wasn't because I had all of these massive bad experiences with people. It was because I heard people talk. I saw other people's experiences, etc. So I
I
think
think it comes back to what we teach our children. Instead of warning them on these things, teach them what it looks like so that they don't go guarded, but they go open. But once they're in there, if they see the signs, they know to walk on back out that door.
yeah, that's
Let me
not
go
this
this
ain't
way.
it.
Right, I'm gonna head over here. Catch you later. And I think that's a better way to help heal these pains in general, because a lot of the pains that we mentioned from men, from other women, from the traumas of our ancestors and elders being passed down, from all of these traumas and the healing and reflectiveness, all of these pains and traumas that we have as Black women, acceptance from society, all of this, I think can really come back to how we bring up the next generation. Because
Mm-hmm.
if we teach them how to be good people, if we teach them discernment, if we teach them what being a good partner and a good friend and a good person looks like and what it doesn't look like, so that they have the tools to make the decisions for themselves, whether it be in a romantic relationship or whether it be in a friendship. And we also instill them the confidence to know and learn in the space to learn, because as young people we have to figure out who we are and what we want, to give them that confidence to say it doesn't matter what the world is telling you you should be, because there's so much pressure on young people to weigh your head this way, do this, girl, what you doing, do this, and if you do something different from the curve, you crazy and you probably gonna get talked about. But if we give our children the courage and the space to say figure out who you are, and once you figure that out, don't bend for nobody.
Listen,
That and
be you. That honestly, sis, that ties into next week's discussion.
ooh, what's next week?
Next week, we are going to talk about allowing our kids to find their individuality and walk into who they are as people. I think that that is very much a generational curse that we don't talk about. We have a lot of expectations for our children. Most of the time, they're vicarious expectations, things that we didn't get to do, things we felt like we had to give up in order to be. And we put all of this pressure on our kids, stripping them of their individuality and finding out who they are. So we're going to talk about that and how to allow our kids to walk into who they are and be who they are. That is a very important topic. And then also how to love the kid that don't fit in the box, because I have children that don't fit into the box.
Mm-hmm.
And
And that's okay.
I love it. Honestly, like I
Yeah.
love it. And if somebody else don't like it, so
Fix you.
deuces. Like that's how I feel. If you not here to love on my kids,
Then don't be
you're not
around them.
allowed.
See yourself
That's
out.
it. See yourself out. Like when it comes to my two, I am a lioness to the fullest. You ain't gotta agree. Guess what? You ain't their mama. Their mama say it's okay. Their daddy say that they fine. Keep it moving. But we're going to talk about allowing kids, our Black kids, to find themselves in their individuality without us forcing on what we want them to be. Because I really
I
do feel
think
like
that's a
that's a very
very
important
important topic. I don't
thing.
know if you've seen the a recent clip that has been circulating on social media, but it was a black father who, I don't know the full circumstances, but the little boy had a very bad haircut. His lining was pushed back to here, and he had gay written on the side of his head. And boy looked like he couldn't have been more than like 8, something like that, maybe 9. And the father basically is hitting him upside his head, talking about some you gay, then why you saying that? Blah 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 blah, being very abusive to the young boy about sexuality, basically his sexuality. And so I think that's a thing too that we have to talk about as far as generational curses when we're talking about allowing our children this freedom and the space to be who they are. That's including their sexuality, and it has nothing to do with you. Like,
Nothing, nothing,
as
nothing,
a parent, it
nothing,
has nothing to do with you.
nothing at all. Nothing at all. So we gonna talk. We got a lot of heavy topics that I'm so passionate about that I want to talk about. I'm always trying to read the room though, because I think Robert was saying they took him away.
They
Uh,
took the little boy away from the
I'm
father.
assuming that's what he's saying
Okay.
about it. And
I'm glad because that was
yeah,
rough.
and just imagine what most people don't know is that out of all other ethnicities, our Black children are committing suicide at
So
alarming
high rates.
rate,
So high.
more than any other ethnicity. Our babies are opting out of life simply because they don't see optimism in life. They don't see acceptance in life. They don't see better for them where they are in life. And as a parent, that one was that kid at one point in my life. and then also had a child that was there. Nothing in this world is worth me losing my child to something like that, simply just because they didn't feel loved, they didn't feel
Yeah.
accepted, they didn't feel like their mother could be supportive to them. I don't care who agrees, I don't care who doesn't like it. You don't have to be present. You don't have to be present. And that's a decision that I'm very happy that both me and Robert are on, that whatever we see, if that's what our kids are or whoever they are, we're gonna love them regardless, and we don't care what anybody else thinks about it. And I know a lot of people say things like, oh well, it's wrong in God's eyes. Well, guess what, when my time comes and I need to answer 2 or 4, I will gladly do so,
Talk to him about that.
and I'm okay with
Got you.
that, because I also believe that we come into the world being who we are in large parts anyway.
Come
And the
on.
only thing that happens in that case is that more things mold us to either walk into who we are meant to be, our purpose, or stray us away. And parents are guides. That's what I purposely believe in my
We
life.
are.
We're
And
guides.
it's a great responsibility. And for anyone who thinks anything other than love, if you identify and respond and connect to the Bible, the Quran, or any other of the scriptures that's out there, you have to understand that love is supposed to be first, right?
First.
And all the different ways that say that if you sinning, don't say that. You
Look,
can't judge nobody because everybody's sin is different. So if
listen.
you ain't never sinned, you the only person that can say something. And I don't know
Hey,
nobody that ain't never
I was
seen.
gonna say that's not even possible.
Right, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
not even
So that
possible.
means you shouldn't have anything to say about somebody else's sin.
I am
The
always
judgment.
amazed at how judgmental we could be as people, as into really the audacity of us to even feel that we have the authority or the power to, because none of us are perfect.
You don't
I'm not
have to
here to
say
judge
so.
anybody. Look, I don't have a say
If
so.
anything, if you taking anything away from any of those
Let
books,
me
it
tell you,
should be to love one another, to
period.
help and accept people. It's like, why you picking and choosing what you want to do?
And
I
here's
can't
the
respect
thing.
that.
In loving someone, it doesn't mean that you have to accept things for yourself. You don't have to be anything or anyone else other than who you are. And I feel like there is this misconception that, especially when it pertains to the LGBTQ plus community, is that if I don't say or express how against it I am, then it's gonna happen to me. Then that means that I'm gay, or I'm
Like
this,
you
I'm
gonna catch
that.
gay?
I
That's not
mean,
a thing.
like
You
it's
can't catch
airborne.
gay. You either like what you like or you like what you like.
So
That's
what,
it.
what difference? Why does it matter?
And
Why
even
does it
if
matter
someone
to
says
you?
you're gay, that doesn't make you gay.
I
It
would
does
never do
not
it.
matter.
Oh,
It
we
does
gonna
not
talk.
matter.
We gonna talk about
We gonna talk about, and it's
it.
Pride
We
Month, y'all.
gonna talk.
Happy Pride Month.
Yes.
Happy belated Juneteenth to everybody.
Yes.
Happy, y'all.
Yes,
Happy. I
indeed.
mean, June is a busy month. It's a great month. We had some graduations.
Yes.
You
Well,
know,
actually, my baby graduated last month. I cried, y'all. I'm such a I did. I cried. I cried too, because I cried for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, I cried because my daughter hates school. She hates traditional school. I'll say that. Loves to learn. She loves to learn, but she's not a traditional student. So school to her is like prison of the mind. She can't stand being. She's more of a critical thinker, a creative thinker, etc. So getting her through to 8th grade was very challenging, because it was just like, listen, what
but
can
you did it.
we did? And we did it. So I cried because I was just so proud that we both made it. We made it. I got some gray in there, but
Come on, we made it
we
through.
made it. I felt like I graduated. And then I cried too, because like this was my first one from the womb, from my womb. I've got babies that
And
didn't.
after 8th grade, it just speedballs from there.
Listen, I mean, I still just see her as this little burrito because that's what I call babies when they first come out. Because you know they swaddle them, and it just makes me. And then you be hungry because you ain't been to ate all that time. And the
Burrito.
first thing you see is this baby wrapped up. I be like, dang, I want a burrito. Like I could really go for a burrito right now. So I have this thing of calling babies, newborn babies, little burritos. So she's my first burrito from my womb, and that's what I see with her every time. I look at her now. It's like I know she's growing up and she's, maturing and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, this is still my little baby. My little
She a
baby that
super burrito now, mama.
Dude, it took me
Getting
52
bigger.
hours. Okay, 52 hours
That's
to
a lot
get
of
her
hours.
out the womb. Like, you don't even know. I was mad. I was mad too. I was big mad. I was like, y'all, I'm still going. Like people was calling, like she's still in labor. The baby ain't here. Like, yes, I'm still in labor. Stop calling.
I know it's been forever. I feel it.
No, I'm the one just trying to get her here. I get it. But
And my niecey Pooh graduated.
I know, yes,
My niecey Pooh graduated, going to high school. Shout out to Journey. I love my niecey Pooh. So it's the transitional period. June is like the beginning of summer. Transitions are happening. And Pride Month, Juneteenth, and all the amazing things that come with June. And it's just a great time to have perspective, to remember the importance of our community coming together, working together, civic engagement. And it's a beautiful time. So don't forget to love each other, y'all. If anything you do, put love first. And make sure y'all get y'all some sun, some vitamin D for that melanin, okay? But then also, there is a cleanup project that is happening with Talking Trash. Speaking of civic engagement, that'll be this Saturday the 26th from 10 to 3 p.m. I'll post the flyer to the Talking
Trash. To be
Trash.
who they want to be anyway. Oh, you came back. You was gone. I was just in here talking.
You were froze, and I didn't know if it was you or me, so I just kept talking. I'm like, I don't know.
And I kept talking. It must have been me. Hold on, wait a minute, because I'm looking at the
live. I was like, which one of us was it?
Froze. Somebody froze. But we gonna that's a sign, sis. I think it's time for us.
It's 10 o'clock. Telling us to get off. But I wanted to make an announcement that this Saturday, the 26th, I am a part of a community cleanup initiative called Talking Trash. And it is about reclaiming our power, working together as a village, as a tribe, as a community to take our communities back. It's our communities, our responsibility is the tagline. And so this Saturday, the 26th, from 10 to 3, there will be a cleanup happening in the greater Grand Crossing area. It's going to be on 73rd and University, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll put the flyer out for Talking Trash on the page and everything so you guys can get it. But come on out. Let's get involved. There are going to be arts projects. We're going to be working with the local block club. They'll be installing their block club sign. We'll have basketball for the young people, music, cleaning our community, gathering and networking. Gonna be a great time, and we'll be doing one a month from here on out. So we'll be doing a large cleanup in different areas of the city, and then we'll be doing smaller ones in between too. So we're doing it. We got to take back our community.
To get my butt out there one for
yes, girl. I'm gonna say you some pickers.
Yeah, some pickles.
Some pickers.
Oh, I thought you said some pickles. I was gonna say, girl, that's my
what kind of pickles? I've been there. What time?
Girl, I love me some pickles. I don't know why, but ever since I was little, they had a little candy stand out here, and it had hot pickles. Girl, I almost crashed. I was like, let me go. Girl, I was sitting on my mama porch.
Wait, Saute.
Pickle.
Saute. You hungry, sis? You done talked about burritos and pickles.
I am. Don't be
grab a pizza plate. She coming.
Look, I'm trying to get off this live so I can go eat. I don't need to be eating this late, but
I'll get you some food, sis.
pickles is my jam though. I love me a pickle. I love me a hot pickle. Like that's my childhood. I used to get in trouble walking to the candy store I was supposed to because I needed me a pickle. I needed me a hot pickle.
For pickles.
Look,
I need my pickle.
I ate pickles all my entire pregnancy with my daughter with everything.
Did you drink pickle juice? Did you drink?
I don't drink the juice, but I would don't judge me, y'all. Because I used to get on Robert nerve. We would be at breakfast and I would be eating scrambled eggs. I'd be like, y'all got pickles? And he would be like, I did. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I ate pickles with everything all day long.
All the pickles all the time.
And she's obsessed with pickles.
That's why. That was her first food of substance. Like,
look, and fruit
cup. Come on for that fruit cup. Y'all, if y'all missed that episode with Russia Brown, y'all need to go back to the page and find it, okay?
And every time I talk to him, I remind him of the fruit cup.
Tay was traumatized by the fruit cup.
I was devastated. I could just see that poor baby like this food. And I threw my fruit. Like I was enjoying that broke my heart.
Everything's the end of the world for kids too. So
but it was the fruit cup. Like the fruit cup ain't do no wrong. Let me get out because now I'm hungry for real.
Like fruit cups, pickles, and burritos. We're gonna holler at y'all next week.
Yes, we are. Thank y'all for hanging in there with us tonight. We will see y'all next week. Good night, y'all.
Yeah.
Bye.